the last page of the test coming up is just going to have a big experiment on it. And you're going to have to be able to identify the different parts of the experiment. We have the explanatory variable and the response variable. Most of your math books up to this point have called that the independent variable and the dependent variable. Okay, so we're going to call it explanatory and response variable. Explanatory variable is what I am introducing into a study to help, that's going to hopefully help predict how it's changing the other variable. Bless you. And then the response variable is just going to be the variable that's being affected. Treatments. Treatments are just going to be different values or different levels of the explanatory variable. All right. I used the example. I used milk this morning. All right. Suppose that Cheyenne and Hannah drink 5 glasses of milk every day, while you 3 drink 10 glasses of milk every day. And I'm wanting to see how it affects your height and your growth. And so the explanatory variable would be how many glasses of milk that you drink. And the response would be the height. Right? I'm hoping that the milk is going to predict how tall you become. And so whether you drank 5 glasses of milk or 10 glasses of milk, that's going to be your treatment group. You're either in the 5 or the 10. Experimental unit, that's just going to be just the individual that's in the study. So an experimental unit would just be just one person, or if you're like in a biology lab, it'll be one little white mouse, right? I don't know how they do studies on those, but. Lurking variables. If we're doing this milk study where you 2 drink 5 glasses of milk, you 3 drink 10 glasses of milk, there might be some lurking variables in there. For instance, milk might not be the only predictor as to how tall you get, even though that's what I'm trying to prove, right? What else might be a factor?
Like your age that you started out.
The age, yeah. If I'm doing this with my 13-year-old son, and I'm doing this with a 18-year-old high schooler, then yeah, my son's probably going to grow a little bit taller just because he's about that age where he would start to grow. Yeah, what else?
The amount of milk.
What did you say? Genetics. Some people have come from a pretty short family, all right? And other people have a really tall mom and dad. And so, yeah. And so I try to get rid of those lurking variables and how they might cloud this study by doing just a random assignment. And that gets rid of those lurking variables. We've already talked about randomly assigning things. Couple more. Okay, now going back to the milk experiment, I might want to have a control group in there. I might want to have a whole other group of 3 or 4 students that aren't drinking any milk during that time. So I can kind of see how much the groups that drinking 5 and 10 glasses of milk a day are being affected. Sometimes blinding an experiment is good. When you blind an experiment, that makes it so that hold on, I had this backwards earlier. When the experimental unit does not know who is receiving the active treatments and who is receiving a placebo. So blinding, you can't really do that with glasses of milk, right? You're going to know whether you're drinking 5 glasses of milk or 10 glasses of milk. But we'll look at one in a minute where we're going to talk about blinding. And then double blinding is just where the experimental units nor the researchers would know who is getting what treatment. You'll kind of look at those in your practice problems. You guys ready? This is where you want to type it up. So researchers want to investigate. We're probably not going to leave it up long enough to write it. That's what you need to do. If you need to go back and look at it, Google Classroom, boom, there it is. All right, researchers want to investigate whether taking aspirin regularly reduces the risk of heart attack. So 400 men between the ages of 50 and 84 are recruited as participants. The men are divided randomly into two groups. One group will take aspirin, and the other group will just take a placebo. You guys know what a placebo is? Just like a sugar pill. That gives me a control group. So they think it might be an aspirin, but people taking the aspirin might be thinking that they're taking a sugar pill. That way, they can actually see what it's doing. Each man takes one pill a day for 3 years. This is an ongoing study, and he wants to know whether he is taking. But he does not know whether he is taking the aspirin or the placebo. So we got a blinding study. At the end of the study, researchers count the number of men in each group who have had heart attacks. So we're going to get some of the same definitions here that we had back on the quiz earlier in the week. All right. So first up, I want to know population. What's a good word to always throw in with population? All what?
All men between ages 50 and 84.
I like it. Okay. Some people are going to say like all Americans. That's a little too broad. I'm just wanting to see all men. But I'm not really interested in whether a teenager is going to have a heart attack. I'm jumping up between 50 and 84. Even if you said over 50 on this, I think that would be a pretty good population. But probably 50 to 84 is a little bit better. While the sample is what?
400 men.
Just the 400 men. Good. Next, we made it to the experimental units. What would that be?
One person.
Yeah, just one person, one man, yeah. One man that was in the study. So we just kind of keep working subsets down. We had the big population of every man, and then we said, well, we're just going to sample these 100, and then within that 100, there's just that one single experimental unit. All right, we've made it to explanatory variable. What is going to be my explanatory variable?
How many?
What's changing in this? What's changing in my study? Which variable is changing? Yeah, so taking an aspirin or not, okay? Okay. I'm trying to color coordinate this. Got not much room on here. The response variable. What am I trying to explain by taking an aspirin or not? Yes. Was it trying to? It's also called a predictor variable. What am I going to be able to measure at the end? What's changing at the end of the study as to whether they take an aspirin or not? What am I hoping to show? Heart attacks. Okay, so the response variable is having a heart attack. Or not. And then finally we have treatments. Remember, treatments are just going to be the different levels of the explanatory variable. So these are going to kind of go into here. So it's just going to be the groups. What two groups did I have in my study? Aspirin and placebo. So I had an aspirin group and I had a placebo group. And sometimes they're called treatment groups. Okay. So like I said, I'm going to give you a farm experiment that's going to happen on a farm, and you're going to be able to tell me all of these things. Okay. All right, you're in Table Buddy. I'm going to change it up a little bit. I want you to read this one, try it on your own, and then we'll go over the correct answers together. All right, let's go over this, see what you guys got. Explanatory variable. Adam, what you got?
I put oral masks versus
Yeah, type of mask that someone's wearing. Good. All right, Hannah, response variable. Say it again. Okay. How are we measuring it? Times. Times. Wait, no. Where's it at?
For each trial, researchers recorded the time it took to complete the
Yes. Record the time. So the time. I'm hoping that the different scented masks will help predict time as far as good. Treatment on that, Cheyenne. What do you got for treatments?
Right. I put the different.
Yeah, but what groups do I have within that different masks?
Smell and taste.
Got floral scented masks and unscented masks. So that's what they're wearing. So it's the same person. It's just a different treatment group. So like the men that were taking aspirin and not taking the aspirin. Again, it's how you're dividing the explanatory variable for treatments. So I'll look at my explanatory variables, the type of masks. So my treatment groups are going to be the different types of masks, listing them out. I got the floral scented and then the unscented. All right. Any lurking variables you can think of, Bailey?
Well, we could agree that I didn't change the names that the Santa gave to the one that
Okay.
that.
Difficulty of maze, yeah. Sour, they talked about some people have a more keen sense of smell than others.
Like, and even female.
Yeah, so that could make a difference. That might make a difference in the amount of time you see between scented and unscented. And Rachel, can we blind this? No, how come? Yeah, people are gonna and like, oh, floral scented, let's go. Or, oh, not floral scented. All right. The researcher could be blinded. Yeah, I don't know what you would gain from that though, because yeah.
Well, technically, they could be done. Studies where
It's possible for the researcher on it, but a lot of times, from what I've seen, you don't want to blind the researcher if you're not blinding the people, the experimental units. Triple 3 blind mice or something.